Jai Sri Ram, friends. Welcome to Bharat Marg. Welcome, Vinay Ji. Thank you for joining in Bharat Marg. It's unbelievable. Things are happening. Canadian PM Justin Trudeau destroyed Shameless. Okay, this is what we are going to discuss about. we are going to discuss about, and so you are going to hear it. How the Canadian PM is losing it all, both inside and outside. We'll get to know from Vinay Ji. And before going further, friends, please make sure to like the video, comment on the video, share the video with as many people as you can. And if you didn't subscribe so far, please make sure to subscribe the channel and also Bharat Mark channel, of course, and also press the notification bell to stay connected with us so that whenever we go live, you are getting informed and you can join us, okay, and become the part of the conversation. And also, we do send out one dharmic message every day for you and your family to enjoy and stay connected with the roots of Sanatan. All you have to do is send us a WhatsApp to +1647 964 4790. Okay, Vinayji, welcome again.
Thank you.
Okay, and it's unbelievable. Canadian PM Justin Trudeau destroyed Shameless. Okay, but time both in and outside of Canada. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So basically, 3 days ago, the United Nations Human Rights Council review meeting was on in Geneva, and India actually was represented by the first secretary of the Indian High Commission, and that's to the United Nations, K.S. Mohammed Hussein, who is the first secretary, said that he put forth recommendations while addressing the UNHRC. Okay. And basically, what he said was, India has recommended Canada to strengthen its framework to prevent misuse of freedom of expression for triggering violence and attacks on places of worship and racial minorities, and address hate crimes and speeches. Okay, so now let's elaborate on this. All right. Let me finish what I was talking about. So Hussein was leading the Indian delegation, noted in his address that India welcomes and thanks the delegation of Canada for the presentation of their national report to combat human trafficking. We note the enactment of National Housing Strategy Act 2019, Accessible Canada Act, and the National Strategy to Combat Human Trafficking 2019 to 2024. Okay. So this was this was what basically said. In the spirit of constructive dialogue, India recommends the following to Canada. So it's basically he is schooling them. Okay. So he said, and again, not mincing any words, he said, in the spirit of constructive dialogue, India recommends the following to Canada. 1. Further strengthen the domestic framework to prevent misuse of freedom of expression for inciting violence and disallow activities of groups which are promoting extremism. 2. Effectively prevent attacks on places of worship of religious and racial minorities. Strengthen legislative...
Just repeat it one more time. I had some disturbance here on the video. If you can repeat it.
So I'm going to start off. In the spirit of constructive dialogue, India recommends the following to Canada. Number 1, further strengthen the domestic framework to prevent the misuse of freedom of expression for inciting violence and disallow activities of groups which are promoting extremism. 2, effectively prevent attacks on places of worship of religious and racial minorities, strengthen legislative and other measures to address hate crime and hate speech. All right. So India also recommended Canada to eradicate the structural discrimination against children belonging to Indigenous groups and address disparities in access to services by all children. And India's recommendation, funnily enough, came very close on the heels of a UN report that criticized Canada for modern slavery. Can you believe this? The report expressed concern over Canada's foreign workers programs, describing these as a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery. The United Nations human rights body urged Canadian authorities to do more to protect workers, tackle discrimination that also enables exploitation, and offer a clear pathway to permanent residency for all migrants. Okay. And this came after a day after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's fresh remark on the diplomatic ties between the two countries over Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar's killing. Canadian Khalistani terrorist. Sorry, I shouldn't have said Khalistani. It's Canadian.
Because there are UK terrorists.
Exactly, Canadian Khalistani terrorists. And he reiterated his allegations of India's involvement in the murder of Nijjar in Canada and said that his country will always stand up for the rule of law. Trudeau also criticized India's move to expel 40 Canadian diplomats in the wake of the worsening diplomatic
let's say in a polite English, as I can understand,
between the two countries. No, I mean, you can't mince words. You got to be very, brazen, right? Saying it was a breach of the Vienna Convention. However, let's now argue the point. Okay. Basically, what has happened with Canada is they came and Mr. Trudeau, as you know, remember, maybe some of the viewers may remember, a few months ago, he came back and he said, we have credible allegations against India that Indian government was involved in the assassination of Canadian Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Okay. And Mr. Nijjar was assassinated right outside a Gurudwara.
Where he was a president, and the drug ring was also...
Exactly. And he was just, coming out of the Gurudwara, and I think a couple of people who were masked and who were wearing masks, they shot him and drove away. Unknown gunman. That's basically what it is. Okay. So now let's talk about Mr. Hussein's points. And so one, he said, further strengthen the domestic framework to prevent misuse of freedom of expression. So everywhere in Canada, right? Anywhere there's any problem, they come up with inclusivity, equitability, freedom of speech, freedom of expression.
The buzzwords.
Pretty much anybody can do anything and get away with it. Just BS, basically, right? So what's happening with the Palestinian pro-Hamas movement, for example, right? There are innumerable rallies, innumerable.
But let us, before going further, I have some questions for you, Vinay Ji. What India has to do with First Nation children? Why they have to drag them into the conversation?
Oh, India has got everything to do with First Nations children. Because
what is Canada doing? It's a very humanitarian country, and why they have to be
That's
slammed?
What you think. That's what you think. Unfortunately,
you just educate me, no?
Absolutely. If you go back to the history, right, there were something called as residential schools in Canada, and we have done a show on that as well.
Right.
A long time ago,
right.
And viewers can look it up. So, in the residential schools, hundreds and thousands of children were basically dragged out of their indigenous community, and with the vision, this is a false vision, but with the vision of kind of converting this indigenous children into mainstream Caucasian
Christian community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically,
Catholics, to be specific.
The children were basically taken away. I mean, you got to understand that word. Taken away which means it's, when I use the word taken, it means forcibly taken. Okay. So they were taken from their parents and from their villages and from their communities or whatever. And the residential school masters, who actually headed the residential schools, who ran the residential schools, and these were all mostly Catholic schools, right? They had the blessings of the government, the Canadian government, okay, and you were allowed to do it in the freedom of in the name of freedom of expression, in the name
But
of freedom of
but
speech.
Vinay ji, sorry to interfere. Okay, yes, we have done videos on it, but for that, Trudeau's dad was also involved for some time in it, and the history will
No, no,
prove it.
that's where I'm coming actually. Okay,
My question to you is simple. For that, Trudeau has already apologized. Why to drag them now into it?
has he really apologized? Has the apology reversed the situation? What happened to those kids? Has the apology actually undone what was done? Has the apology re-established their connection with their indigenous community? Has the
But
apology brought those lives back that were secretly buried under these in school compounds?
see,
I
that
got a
time
lot
they
of
didn't
these
have heart.
questions.
Now they are even bleeding for the children of Palestinian. Okay, so there is a huge difference between now and then. Okay, but now my question is very simple for you. What do the Indian allegation of Canadian government with the First Nation children now? What do they say about it?
No, basically, what is happening is even today, okay, this residential school system was prevalent till the 90s. It's not too long ago. It's only a 20 odd years ago. And Mr. Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, was the prime minister at the time, and he actually was okay with the system. He actually supported the system, and then in the early 90s, the residential schools started closing down. Okay, and that's when they realized that this is actually marginalization of indigenous people, marginalization of their communities, and discrimination and mass murder, genocide. They were actually on the path of genocide, actually, of these indigenous people. Okay, so now coming to the 21st century, fast forward to 2023, right?
Mhm.
So the residential schools are gone. I agree, but have you seen? Have you ever toured around Canada and seen how these indigenous people live even today in these isolated,
Ghettos,
concentrated communities? Okay,
ghettos.
ghettos, exactly. So basically they live in these ghettos, and they live in these literally I would call it, I would even openly call these concentration camps, right? So
Mhm.
basically they are restricted to their communities,
Mhm.
and very few people actually out of the communities, from the community, sorry, go outside to another community, or to another city for growth, or for job opportunities, or for education, or whatever, right?
Most of them are
However,
drugged also.
the majority of the community are still kind of confined to their own ghettos and communities, right? And now, what are the facilities that the communities, the government is offering these communities? Okay, maybe they have a school, all right,
Free
and
flow of drugs.
even the schools probably go up to maybe middle school, or secondary school level. Following that, they have nowhere to go. I mean, I have been to some remote parts of Canada, northern Ontario and northern Quebec and stuff like that, right? You will be kind of, you'll feel ashamed to say you are a Canadian when
Mm.
you go to such communities, and they hardly have any growth opportunities. They're confined to this, and they basically are slave driven to work in those communities, because the parents are not able to make enough money to meet their ends, and they get their kids to work, and the kids start off working at the age of 10, 12, 14, whatever, right? And these are not full adults, and this is what is called slavery. And as
And India puts light on it and
exactly.
says you better
Because
take care of
the thing
them.
is, you got to keep in mind that India did not start it. United Nations human rights body has already talked about it, and basically has criticized Canada for modern slavery. Okay.
Wow.
And they've also described these as a breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery, the foreign workers program, and all that stuff, right? So these are all grounds
And
for contemporary forms of slavery. Because
let,
you know what?
let, let,
I'll tell you
let
something. Like the reason they talk about foreign workers program is because every student who comes in as on student visa is allowed to work for 20 hours.
now they
And
said they will be restricting not more than 20 hours. Today they have put out a statement.
exactly 20 hours. Okay. Now the thing is, because people were working illegally more than 20 hours. Okay. So that's why it's very important that they're restricted to 20 hours. And this is because the United Nations has said that this is modern slavery, what Canada is doing, right? And these kids who are coming in are hardly 17, 18, some of these kids, and they are only sent from their home country with fees just to cover one semester. What happens after that? What about their living expenses? So they have to work their asses off.
Yeah, but
Unfortunately.
but see, India points out this one. Okay, okay, fine. But why Bangladesh slams Canada? That's unbelievable. Means just now he got slammed by Turkey. Now Bangladesh, China. Now Bangladesh. What's happening there?
Bangladesh also acknowledged and recommended Canada's progress in human rights protection to combat human trafficking. So, what is happening is there is not only discrimination against immigrants from uh, Bangladesh, there is open, blatant hate speech, all in the name of freedom of speech. And there have been places of worship that have been desecrated, and all in the name of freedom of expression. And then there is also human trafficking, which is a huge deal. And for Canada, which calls itself a developed country, I mean, these are things that go on in China or Syria or one of those third world countries, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like,
you call China third world country? They are a superpower. Afraid. These guys are afraid of them. Come
since
on,
when?
come on, come on. Give me a break.
Please, you
You
have you
call
seen
you call China third world country.
the human rights violation that goes on in China?
Yeah, but nobody. If it is so, US would have stood up for it. These are all the flag bearers of the human rights. They get all
Yeah,
the products
but
from them.
in the United Nations, it has been brought up, but nobody has the nerve to actually confront China. That's the problem, right? So what can you do? You cannot put sanctions on China because a lot of
Then you don't
countries,
get the toilet tissue. You have to
yeah,
be
a lot of
you have
countries
to be
depend
running
on
around
China
blind.
for their daily living. And if you put
Yeah.
sanctions on China, then guess what? China is going to say, okay, we'll stop importing toilet rolls, or we're going to stop importing, exporting toilet rolls, or exporting, so
Baby
many things,
foods.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then what? These countries are going to go. Where are they going to go and beg for all these commodities that come from China?
Because
They
they
don't have
don't
an
make it
alternative
anyway.
plan. They don't have a plan B.
Yeah, they cannot make it by themselves. But
No, no, no. They don't have the
it's
infrastructure.
unbelievable. But let me quickly move into now abroad. Every one of them is slamming. That's okay, understandable. He has a messed up foreign policy, terror appeasement, those kind of things. But why is he being see? Here is a guy. I feel sometimes very very pity for the fellow. He
Which
brings
fellow?
Nazi. Yeah, Justin Trudeau, yeah, he brings Nazi to the
Are you
parliament.
joining the liberals
Let,
by any chance?
let me finish it, okay? Means let's be the devil's advocate for some time,
All right,
okay?
good.
You know, he brings a Nazi, okay, to get the popular vote of Muslims, and here Muslims slam him because he brought the Nazi. Jews slam him, because India was able to kill or whatever the Khalistani terrorist Canadian terrorist got killed.
Allegedly,
eh?
killed.
No,
Allegedly
no,
killed by
he
India.
was
India
killed. Is the
allegedly killed.
truth? He was no, not Indian, but he was murdered here. Okay, so not we don't know who, but he was murdered. So the Khalistanis are upset at him. Okay, and he called India as the alleged conspirator of behind this. So Indians are upset with him. So it looks to be nobody is happy with him at all. he just got
And
booed.
also, don't forget his wife left because she found Idris Elba.
And the core church community is not happy with him either.
No, but he's happy with Melanie Jolie. Melanie
I am
Jolie.
I am not
Yeah,
going there, and then Jagmeet Singh will be upset. Okay, let's
yeah.
not go
Melanie
there.
Jolie is keeping him happy, and happy in both senses. And of course, he's been. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not disputing that. Actually, you got some good record there, good statistics. Who has upset whom and how and when and all that stuff. But we got to keep in mind who is who is the root cause for this. Who do you blame for this? Justin Trudeau himself. He is the man who has no vision, who has no experience. He came in because of his father, and it's a dynastic rule. And we all oppose dynastic politics because that is not a good thing for the country. And he was brought in only because his father was a politician and was the former prime minister of Canada. And this man,
And he was
Trudeau, just
handsome. And he was handsome.
whatever, yeah, Justin Trudeau was,
That's what the liberal media said.
lived his own life. He was a
That's
teacher,
what the
drama
liberal media
teacher.
said. Compared with Stephen Harper, this is a handsome young fellow and handsome couple. That's what they
Exactly.
told.
So this man was a drama teacher. They should have left him be. But the problem is, these kingmakers, they decided that they're going to bring Justin Trudeau because liberals had lost a few elections, and they wanted to regain their power from conservatives, and so they brought this man who was literally a buffoon, and they put him in front of Stephen Harper, who was, I'll tell you, up to date. Stephen Harper was one of the best prime ministers of Canada.
Canada ever had. There is no second
Undoubtedly.
opinion about it.
Undoubtedly. Okay. Ever. So this is the thing about Stephen Harper, and to contest against Stephen Harper and win, what was the thing? The Canadians were all mesmerized by this man's looks, by this man's name,
And
and
young couple, look.
also that
Nothing,
they
nobody.
were newly married or whatever, young kids and whatever. Not newly married, I'm just saying married and young family and all that. I mean, he kind of sold himself very well, marketed himself very well. But the problem is the guy had absolutely no clue about foreign politics, foreign
But
policies, no experience with domestic policies, no education or any understanding of indigenous communities, no understanding or education about immigrants, foreign trained professionals who are coming here, and permanent residents who are moving into or people who are moving in as permanent residents to Canada. So he basically had no knowledge of all of this because he was a drama teacher. He had no history about any of this, right? And he just took on the office, and he had a few people to coach him. Okay, just do this, say this, whatever, right? And he did basically that. And unfortunately, for to be a prime minister, you got to have a lot of experience. I mean, it's not just your looks and your name that'll get you there.
but Vinay ji, let me ask you this: this poor fellow, going to eat lunch, and people boo him and chase him out of the restaurant. That's bad.
Okay, what do you
Let the guy
expect? You
eat.
want him? You want to?
He made sure that you don't eat. At least let him eat.
You want people to garland him? Have you seen his popularity rating right now? It's under 22%. Okay, it's going to go down to the teens. Like it'll soon be 19, 18, 17, 16, and then maybe go into single digits. Okay, So his popularity is dwindling day by day. All right. And the only reason is people around Canada are recognizing that this guy is backing the wrong people. Okay. And unfortunately, that's not going to be good for the country. And long term, it's going to affect the country. Unfortunately, the damage that he has done in the last 6 7 years that he's been in office, right,
Mhm.
or more, is pretty much irreparable. Okay, I'll tell you that because in the last so many years that he's been here, he brought in so many people from so many different communities, so many countries as refugees, and look at what has happened to those people. They're like they're basically they don't have jobs, they're struggling, and today the crime rate in Canada has is so high. Like I'll give you a quick example. Okay, a load of gold and US dollars cash came in from Switzerland, okay,
Hmm.
to the Pearson International Airport. All right. Within 41 minutes, within 41 minutes, 400 kilograms of gold, which is worth about $20 million, and $2 million in US cash, okay, were stolen from the warehouse, Air Canada warehouse. Like, what do you expect? Like, these are all people who are struggling to live here, and they come up with all these schemes. Like, have you been to Canadian Pearson International Airport, Toronto? Like,
It's a
most of
mess.
the people, 90% of the people who work there are people who are probably who have come in the last few years to Canada. They're all mostly immigrants with hardly any qualifications, and unfortunately these guys have connections, and these probably are part of some gangs, or who knows what kind of security detail these guys go through. And that's what happened. And it happened a few months ago, this robbery, and nothing has been done about it, right?
See, that's a
So
good thing in Canada. You do anything you want, you have a freedom of doing so. You don't get caught.
exactly, and it's all freedom of speech, freedom of expression. If somebody steals my car, it's okay, freedom of my neighbors. Somebody went into my neighbor's driveway on Monday, or was it Tuesday, I think, just about 3 days ago. And they basically opened the car, and they stole all the stuff inside, contents. Unfortunately, they didn't leave any valuables in there, but
And
they
they
stole
left the
whatever they
car.
could. They left the car because the car was old car, so they didn't touch the car. It's a little older car.
Hmm.
And you
Anyhow.
hear about how many cars per day? Apparently, at Pearson Airport itself, 401 cars.
But
I think it's about every day or every week gets stolen.
but now I'm talking to a lot of white community. They are upset with Justin Trudeau. They say when the freedom rally happened, he acted tough on them. When they blocked a bridge, he acted tough on them. But with the Muslim community, he is playing with the soft gloves for the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas supporters, terrorist
I
supporters.
wouldn't say all the Muslims community. I've also seen many other communities. It's happening even in schools. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. In Peel District School Board, many of these protests are happening, and school kids are encouraged to participate by their own teachers and stuff in these pro Hamas rallies. Okay, I don't want to call them pro Palestinian rallies, because these are pro Hamas rallies, right? And this is the thing. This is the
And
way things are
and
going
and
here.
and when we are talking about foreign thing, he just 2 days back he got slammed by Netanyahu too
Oh yeah, because he was
for
trying to tell,
advising. He was unloading
he was
some free
advising
advice.
Netanyahu, and Netanyahu said, you know what? Unfortunately, you're not educated. You're not probably aware of what is going on in Israel, because these guys are hiding in hospitals. I don't know if you saw the latest video where they found a whole cache of weapons hidden in the basement, and these terrorists were hiding inside the hospital basement. So what are these called? These guys are called cowards, or they're called, what are they called? I'm not sure.
Absolutely. Vinayji, but your last word, okay, Justin Trudeau is destroyed both the inside and outside of Canada, nowhere for him to run. Uh, Anything you want to say, you can finish it off.
My only sincere advice to Mr. Justin Trudeau, that if he's even listening to this video at all, or if he gets some hint
Free
from
time,
somewhere,
break from some of the important thing he is doing in life already.
yeah, the best advice is for him to retire, resign, and call new elections.
Yeah.
Because don't replace himself with a new prime
And
minister
it
from the
is so
Liberal Party.
bad. Yeah, it is so bad. Even his bed buddy Jagmeet Singh is slamming him.
Exactly. So that's what's happening. So basically, he has lost all credibility, and he has lost all support, and he has lost all morale. Like, he doesn't have any right to continue in office. That's my sincere advice.
Now, one last thing is Jagmeet Singh is kind of keeping distance with him. Slamming all the moves what he is doing. Will that fetch him any votes at all, or he is also doomed? He just
Jagmeet
got
Singh is
re-elected.
already doomed, because he may have the support of these Khalistanis. Even the true Punjabis, the Sikhs, they don't support him. I'll be honest with you, because unfortunately, the Jagmeet Singhs and the Trudeaus, they think that uh, uh, every turban wearing person is actually a Khalistani, but it's not so, because there are the Canada has 2.1% population of Sikhs. Okay, and out of the 2.1%, majority of them, I would say 90% of them are sincere, honest, and they just want to make a living in Canada. It's
I am
just
a
that
Sikh, but I am
10%
not
who
a
actually are
terrorist
the
kind of
terrorists.
people, like in Shah Rukh
Exactly.
Khan's language. But anyway, thank you, Vinayji. Thank you for coming and sharing. Appreciate it, and looking forward to talk to you again in the next video. Till then, friends, you also make sure to comment. What do you think? Do you agree with Vinayji or disagree? Comment here and let us know. And looking forward to seeing you again. Till then, Jai Jai Sri Ram. Jai
Thank you,
Sri
Jim.
Ram.